When we bought our dream home, we expected peace, not war with a woman who thought she ruled the neighborhood. But when Karen called the cops on my wife and sent hired muscle to our door, she triggered a chain of events no one saw coming. She picked the wrong couple to mess with. I never thought buying a house would feel like declaring war. But that's how it started, even if all we wanted was peace. It was a cloudless Thursday afternoon when my wife Nicole and I pulled into the driveway of our new home for the very first time. A two-story brick beauty with green shutters, tall oaks in the front yard, and a wraparound porch that practically begged for coffee at sunrise. The house sat at the edge of a tidy suburban community called Willow Creek. Pristine sidewalks, perfectly symmetrical lawns, mailboxes that all looked like they came from the same cloning facility. We'd done our due diligence. The property was technically adjacent to the HOA boundary, not within it. That had been a selling point, actually. Nicole and I wanted the calm of the suburbs without someone breathing down our necks about what shade of beige our door had to be. We were still unpacking the last of the moving boxes when it happened. I was halfway inside the garage, struggling to get a shelving unit to stand straight, when I heard the clack of heels on pavement. Not the casual kind of walk. No, this was the unmistakable cadence of someone who thought they were arriving at a courtroom, not a driveway. "Excuse me," came a sharp voice. "Excuse me, hello? Are you the new owners?" I stepped out into the sunlight, brushing sawdust from my hands, and there she was. Late 40s, platinum blonde bob so sharp it looked like a weapon. Oversized sunglasses, white blouse without a wrinkle, clipboard in hand. Classic HOA uniform. "I'm Ryan," I said. "We just moved in yesterday." She didn't smile, didn't introduce herself, just stood there with the look of someone who just walked into a room that smelled funny. "I'm Karen Bell," she said at last, "president of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association." She paused like that should mean something to me. I nodded politely. "Nice to meet you. We're actually not part of the HOA. Our lot's just outside the boundary." She stared at me like I'd just farted during a church sermon. "That's not correct. Every home in this development is subject to community regulations. Your property is within visual proximity of the subdivision. That means you're expected to adhere to standards. Appearance, noise, vehicle storage, seasonal decorations." "Ma'am," I cut in as calmly as I could, "our property line is clearly outside the HOA border. We reviewed the documents with our real estate lawyer before closing. We're not under your jurisdiction." I said it evenly, not trying to provoke. Nicole always says I'm the calm one, the diplomat. But Karen's face tightened like someone had just told her the wine was from a box. "You're mistaken," she snapped. "I have the HOA map right here." She rifled through her clipboard and whipped out a laminated sheet with what looked like a children's treasure map. Thick marker lines and all. She jabbed a French manicured finger at a tiny square that vaguely resembled our house. "That's your property." "Nope," I said with a shrug, "that's our neighbor's. Ours is this one." I pointed slightly off to the side. Karen pursed her lips so tightly I thought they might vanish into her face. "Well," she said finally, "we'll be in touch. There's a mandatory orientation for new homeowners and a dues payment form that I'll drop off tomorrow." "You're welcome to drop off whatever you want," I said, still smiling. "But we won't be signing anything." She turned on her heel like I'd personally insulted her ancestors. As she walked off, she muttered something about non-compliance and community integrity. I caught her glance once more over her shoulder, sharp, calculated. Nicole came out onto the porch just as Karen rounded the corner. She'd missed the whole encounter. She raised an eyebrow at me. "New neighbor?" she asked. I exhaled slowly. I think we just made a friend. That night, over pizza on the porch, Nicole laughed it off. I've dealt with worse, she said, sipping from a bottle of beer. Let her try something. We've got all the paperwork, and I've got, well, you know. I knew. Nicole didn't advertise what she did. She wasn't flashy, but she also wasn't someone you wanted to screw with, especially not with lies and bad maps. Still, I told myself it was just an awkward start. Maybe Karen was just having a bad day. Maybe she'd realize her mistake and move on. Spoiler, she wouldn't. But right then, we were two people in love, in a beautiful new home, under a darkening sky scattered with stars, unaware that we'd just stepped into a chess game where the other side didn't play by the rules. It didn't take long before the quiet I had been craving turned into something else entirely. About 3 days after our charming sidewalk showdown with Karen, a thick envelope appeared wedged in our mailbox. No stamp. Just a folded HOA letterhead and a red sticker that read Final Notice, which was funny considering we hadn't received a first one. Inside, a printed list of alleged violations. According to the document, our house was guilty of non-standard mailbox placement, excessive ornamental vegetation, and my personal favorite, curtains visible from exterior with unapproved color. The curtains in question? Beige. Not neon green, not blood red, just beige. Nicole read it over my shoulder and burst out laughing. You'd think we opened a strip club in the garage. There was also a request, no, demand, to appear at a compliance hearing the following week and a friendly reminder that continued defiance could result in daily fines. The tone was smug, confident, like they were used to people folding at the first sign of official stationery. But we weren't most people. The very next morning, Nicole and I sat down at the kitchen island with a hot cup of coffee and a fresh plan. She pulled up the zoning maps and property deed scans we'd received during the home purchase. We printed out everything: lot coordinates, county records, legal boundary descriptions, all of it. Let's make it easy for them, she said, organizing it into a binder. You know, in case they struggle with basic cartography. She included a highlighted section from the deed that explicitly stated the property was not under the governance of Willow Creek HOA. I walked that binder straight to Karen's front door. She opened it like she'd been expecting me. Her smile was thin and triumphant until she saw the binder. Morning, I said. Just wanted to clear up this misunderstanding. I handed it to her. She didn't take it. Anything you'd like to say, she sniffed, can be sent through official HOA channels. Sure, I said, but this way's faster. I held it out again. This time she snatched it like it was radioactive. That night I saw her pacing in her yard, talking into her phone. Angry, wild gestures. The binder in her hand like it was full of curses. Then it got worse. Over the next few days we started noticing subtle things. First, a white sedan we'd never seen before began parking across the street at weird hours. Always empty, always facing our house. Then one morning I caught a man crouching by our fence taking photos of our backyard with a long lens camera. When I stepped out, he casually strolled off like he was birdwatching, in khakis, no binoculars. Nicole was calm, almost too calm. We're not just dealing with a bored suburban tyrant, she said. She's escalating. That means she's desperate. We didn't confront anyone, not yet. Instead, I set to work on something I'd been planning for a while. Our eyes and ears. I had a full set of motion-sensitive cameras stored from a project I never finished. By midnight that night, every angle of our property was under silent surveillance. Driveway, mailbox, fence line, even the small alley between the house and garage. But that wasn't all. I installed a small server in the garage running a custom AI model trained to recognize and flag specific words, threats, names, legal terms, eviction, weapon, child, report. If anyone got too chatty too close to our walls, we'd know. Nicole was impressed. You turned our house into a polite Fort Knox. I prefer polite hellscape trap, I replied. Meanwhile, Karen wasn't slowing down. Flyers started appearing on neighbors' doors warning about unregulated residents. Our trash bins were overturned one morning. Nothing stolen, just dumped. A city code inspector randomly showed up about anonymous complaints regarding non-permitted fencing work. We hadn't done any. Nicole called it the HOA blitzkrieg. The next escalation came in digital form. One of our email accounts, the one we had used for the real estate purchase, suddenly received a suspicious message. It was from a Gmail account that read something like Willow Creek Compliance Team. In the body of the message, a long list of fabricated infractions and a demand to sign a community participation agreement. It was formatted to look official, but we traced the email back to a residential IP. 3 guesses whose. Nicole chuckled darkly. She's not just bold, she's dumb. But I wasn't laughing. Something about how fast it was all escalating, and the fact that Karen hadn't backed off after the legal binder, told me this wasn't a bluff. She was willing to push it further. She wanted a reaction, or maybe she wanted to build a case. So I decided to give her one. Not a reason to evict us, no. A reason to ruin herself. We baited the hook. I created a clean, professional-looking email address that looked just like an internal HOA account. I sent Karen an innocuous message pretending to be a new neighbor eager to support her initiative against the unauthorized property owners on Birch Hollow Lane. Within 12 hours, she responded. In it, she casually confirmed that she was actively coordinating social pressure to drive us out, and had initiated a pattern of documented violations to establish precedent for HOA-backed legal recourse. She even joked about cracking the wife's intimidation shell. Nicole read the email twice, then 3 more times. I hope she smiles like that in court, she muttered. So we printed it, all of it, screenshot, metadata, IP logs, and I filed it neatly into the second binder labeled in red Sharpie, Insurance. I wasn't home when it happened, and God, I wish I had been. It was a Tuesday mid-morning. I had driven into town to pick up some reclaimed barnwood from a supplier about 45 minutes away. My phone was in my glove box, something I did on purpose when I wanted real silence. Nicole was working from home, laptop open, coffee nearby in her usual posture. Legs up on the porch railing, eyes half scanning reports, half watching squirrels try to outwit the feeder. I was maybe 20 minutes into the drive back when I saw the missed calls. 5 of them. 3 from Nicole, 2 from our neighbor Steve, the one we'd barely exchanged 5 words with since moving in. My stomach dropped. I pulled over into a church parking lot and hit call. She picked up instantly. Her voice was calm, very calm. Which, if you knew Nicole, meant the exact opposite. "You're fine?" I asked. "I'm fine now," she said. "But we had visitors." "What kind of—" "The Karen kind, with backup." Later, when I got home, I checked the security footage. What I saw made my blood boil. 10:23 a.m. sharp. A black SUV pulls up across the street. Out steps Karen, in full HOA battle regalia. Blue blouse tucked so tight into beige slacks it looked like it was stitched on. Clipboard under one arm, fire in her eyes. Then from the back doors, 2 men emerged. Not cops, not contractors, just muscle. Over 6 feet each, shaved heads, mirrored sunglasses, matching windbreakers. The kind of guys who either bounce people out of clubs or follow a certain ex-president around golf courses. Karen led the charge up our front path, heels snapping like gunfire on the concrete. She didn't knock. Just stood at the base of the porch and shouted, "You have 60 seconds to exit the home voluntarily." The footage showed Nicole stepping out through the front door like she was just answering Amazon. No panic, no raised voice, no hesitation. She stood there for a second, arms crossed, taking in the scene like she was choosing a wine at dinner. Karen started on one of her rants. We'd heard the tone before, loud, righteous, drenched in suburban supremacy. You are in violation of community standards, refusing compliance, and we now consider this a case of unlawful occupation. These men are here to assist in your removal if necessary. One of the goons stepped forward, planting his boot on the bottom step of our porch. That's when Nicole moved. She reached into her waistband and slowly pulled out her federal ID wallet. The gold badge flashed against the sunlight like a flare. Then came her voice, calm, clipped, lethal. "You just stepped onto federal property," she said. "I am a federal officer. You are on camera. You are being recorded with audio and facial recognition tracking. Step back immediately and exit this property." The first guy blinked, his mouth opened slightly. The second took half a step back. Karen shouted, "She's bluffing, she's not." Nicole cut her off without raising her voice. "Step 1 foot closer and I'll assume the intent is hostile. That grants me authority under Title 18, Section 1111 to initiate immediate defensive protocol. Would you like to test that?" The first guy, the bigger one, turned to Karen. "She didn't say that like someone bluffing," he muttered. "She said that like someone who has done it." Karen grabbed his arm. "You're not leaving." He shook her off. "She's got badge, law, and cameras, lady. You didn't say anything about a Fed." And they bolted. Both of them turned on their heels and power-walked like their lives depended on it. No posturing, no tough guy strut, just pure retreat. Karen shrieked after them, "Cowards, I paid you." Nicole, now standing at the top of the steps, called out calmly, "Karen, you've now committed criminal trespass. You brought third-party agents onto private property under false legal pretense. You tried to incite unlawful removal of a lawful occupant. That's attempted coercion. Shall I go on?" Karen's face twisted into something feral. "I'm calling the police," she barked. Nicole actually smiled. "I recommend it." Karen stormed off to her SUV and peeled out so hard she nearly hit our mailbox. When I finally got home, Nicole was sipping her second coffee and rereading a case file like nothing had happened. "You okay?" I asked, arms still tingling. She shrugged. "I didn't even draw," she said. "It wasn't worth it. You scared off 2 guys and Karen with just your mouth and a badge. I'm a woman of many talents." We sat on the porch together. I watched the sun move across the lawn, still trying to process what had nearly gone down on our front steps. Then I checked the footage again. Watched Karen's face in high definition as her so-called enforcers fled. Watched Nicole step forward like a damn movie hero. And I knew this wasn't over. Karen wasn't the type to lose gracefully. The next day, the police showed up. Not 1 cruiser, 3. Sirens off, but lights spinning in eerie silence as they rolled up to our curb just after 8 in the morning. I was in the backyard trying to fix a warped planter box when Nicole called out calmly, too calmly, "Ryan, we've got company." I came around the side of the house and saw them. 3 officers in full gear, one of them already at our gate, the others scanning the yard, hand near holster. That wary look they wear when they're not sure what they're walking into. I froze. I'd seen enough TV to know this wasn't a wellness check. "Are you Ryan Turner?" the lead officer asked. "I am. What's going on?" We received an anonymous report of a dangerous situation involving an unstable female with unregistered firearms and a minor child in immediate danger. We need to speak with the woman listed on the property deed. I blinked. Nicole was already walking toward us, calm, composed, wearing jeans and a hoodie, hair pulled back, hands clearly visible. She didn't ask questions, just pulled her badge from her jacket and held it out with one hand, her other resting carefully away from her holster. "Nicole Turner, Federal Agent Badge number 612 Bravo," she said, voice flat, official. "You'll find I'm fully registered and compliant. There is no child in this home and there is no instability aside from the person who made that call." There was a beat, just a few seconds of nothing. Then the air shifted. The lead officer took the ID, scanned it with his eyes, nodded slowly. "I recognize you," he said. "We worked joint ops back in San Antonio 2 years ago." Nicole gave a half smile. "Figured you looked familiar." The other 2 cops visibly relaxed. One took off his sunglasses. The mood softened instantly, but that lingering edge on that adrenaline buzz, it was still under the surface. "Whoever made that report," Nicole continued, "committed a federal offense. Falsely reporting a threat involving a federal officer is no joke. I'm going to need a copy of the dispatch and the number it came from." "We'll get that for you," the officer said. "But ma'am, we have to do a quick sweep. Protocol." She nodded. "Of course." They checked the house, walked through, looked in the closets, peeked in the attic hatch. Found nothing, because there was nothing to find. No child, no weapon stash. Just a well-kept home, a coffee pot still warm, and one woman who was now absolutely done playing nice. I sat with the lead officer on the porch while they did their thing. I asked the obvious question. "Did the call come from anyone local?" He gave me a look, didn't confirm, didn't deny. But it was the kind of look that said, "You already know." Nicole came out 10 minutes later holding a printed transcript from our email honeypot system. "It was her," she said, tossing the sheet into my lap. "Look at the phrasing. At-risk child, erratic behavior, suspected illegal weapons." She's used the exact same phrases before in emails. It's her writing style, passive-aggressive legalese with a dash of paranoia. I looked over the transcript. She was right. It was textbook Karen. We pulled up the security footage from the night before. Nothing out of the ordinary until I noticed a shadow at the edge of the frame near the alleyway around 2 a.m. Someone ducking out of sight, probably scanning for motion sensors. A silhouette, too blurry to ID, but the timing lined up. Nicole shook her head. She's getting reckless, desperate. We compiled everything. The police visit, the audio logs, the security video, and of course the fabricated email that had been traced to the same IP address used for her last HOA message. It was all going in the insurance binder. That afternoon, I walked down to the HOA bulletin board near the park and noticed something new. A flyer stapled right in the middle. "Protect Willow Creek's families. Report suspicious behavior immediately." Below it, in tiny font, "Residents are encouraged to maintain safety standards and report any potential domestic threats." No name, but I didn't need one. That night, Nicole sat on the couch, silent, arms folded, not angry, just cold, controlled, focused. "She wants to scare me," she said finally, "to make me overreact, make us look unstable, build a record." I nodded. "But she doesn't know you like I do." Nicole gave a humorless smile. "No, she doesn't know how patient I can be when I'm watching someone bury themselves." It was time to stop defending. I'm not the kind of guy who picks fights. Never have been. I build things, restore old wood, fix what's broken. But I also understand leverage. and Karen had been stacking sticks against us for weeks, thinking we'd either break or run. She didn't realize we'd been building a fire of our own. After the false police report, a move so brazen it almost tipped into parody, Nicole and I decided it was time to end this. Not just with passive documentation, not just with cameras or folders or printed transcripts. We needed Karen to expose herself fully, willingly, on record. So I baited the hook. I spent 2 nights crafting the perfect HOA decoy campaign. A digital persona named Alex, a fictional homeowner claiming to have just moved into the south end of the neighborhood. Alex was concerned, of course. He wanted to preserve community integrity and hoped to get involved with ongoing efforts to neutralize disruptive elements. In other words, a Karen whisperer. Using a clean Proton mail address and a VPN to mimic a nearby IP, I wrote her a warm, boot-licking email. I've noticed the house on Birch Hollow Lane has been non-compliant with visual standards and seems resistant to community integration. If there are any HOA initiatives planned, I'd be eager to support or coordinate from my end. I didn't have to wait long. She responded the next morning. Glowing. Alex, wonderful to hear from like-minded neighbors. Yes, that property is a concern. The woman there is aggressive and the man is dismissive. We've begun laying the groundwork to reclassify the property as subject to adjacent compliance laws. I've also been encouraging certain incidents to be documented in case escalation becomes necessary. She sent 3 paragraphs, each one more incriminating than the last. She was proud of herself, as if this was a game of chess and she was 5 moves ahead. Nicole read the email dead silent. Then she got up, walked to the kitchen, and poured herself a second cup of black coffee. I followed her in. She's digging her own grave, I said. Nicole didn't respond at first. Then she muttered, "Let her." That same day, we got a visit from yet another city official. This time it was someone from Noise Ordinance Compliance, responding to a complaint about aggressive power tool use at inappropriate hours. I pointed to the sign on the garage. Closed for renovation, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. The guy apologized, said someone had filed the complaint 3 times in one day. He was required to check it out. We offered him coffee. He accepted. He left laughing and said, "I've seen this kind of thing before. Some HOA lady thinks she's the mayor." We added him to the witness list. Then came the mail. Real mail, certified. Karen had submitted a formal HOA resolution request co-signed by 3 board members attempting to file an external compliance petition against our home. The language was comically official. Paragraphs of fictional citations, fabricated guidelines, and completely made-up district terms. She'd even included photo printouts of our mailbox, our recycling bins, and, God help me, our dog. Apparently, the dog's coat pattern was disruptive in color scheme. I laughed out loud. Nicole did not. "She's gone all in," she said. "She thinks she's untouchable now." And that was when I put everything together. All the emails, all the photos, the police visit transcripts, the footage, the phony HOA petition, every printed violation notice, every digital footprint tied to her name, address, or IP. I put it all into a binder, a new one. On the cover, I wrote in thick red Sharpie, "Exhibit A, HOA Unlawful Actions, Karen Bell." We backed it up on 3 flash drives. One went into our lockbox, one went to Nicole's supervisor at her office. One went into my pocket. That weekend, I walked right into the monthly HOA meeting. I wasn't invited. I wasn't even technically allowed since we weren't members. But I walked in anyway. It was being held at the community clubhouse, a sterile little building with beige walls, a flickering ceiling fan, and enough folding chairs to seat half the neighborhood. Karen was at the head table, giddy in her position of imagined power, clipboard in front of her like a judge's gavel. The chatter died when I stepped in. Karen straightened. "Mr. Turner, this is a private HOA meeting." I raised the binder in the air. "That's funny," I said, "because the content in here suggests you've been acting very publicly and illegally for weeks." She stood up. "You are trespassing." I walked to the center of the room and placed the binder gently on the nearest table. "I have documented evidence of sustained harassment, falsified code violations, a fabricated police report, and direct written communication confirming your intent to force us out of our legal residence." People shifted in their chairs. "I've also provided this to the county attorney," I continued, "to 2 journalists, and to 3 families who used to live in our home before you forced them out the same way." Murmurs started around the room. Karen's face went pale. Then she did what every cornered tyrant does. She yelled, "He's lying. That's all fake. This is a setup." "Then you won't mind if we read a few excerpts aloud?" I said, reaching for the binder. But I didn't have to. One of the board members stood up, picked up the binder, flipped through it, and then looked at her. "Karen, is this true?" She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again, and said nothing. It took less than a week for the wheels to come off. The HOA meeting was the spark, but the fire that followed, that was all Karen's doing. I never imagined how fast it would unravel. I thought we'd spend months chasing paperwork, fighting appeals, getting bogged down in red tape. But when you give people the truth, when you show them how they've been used, something changes. It's like pulling a splinter nobody knew was there. The pain comes first, then the relief. The day after the meeting, I got a knock at the door. Not a cop, not a city inspector. It was one of Karen's own board members, a man named Lester. Early 60s, khakis, and a tucked-in polo like everyone else around here, but his shoulders looked like they hadn't relaxed in years. He handed me an envelope. "I resigned," he said. "You should know. She's been doing this for a long time. You're just the first ones who fought back." Inside the envelope was a copy of an email chain between Karen and the board. In it, she mocked former residents, boasted about creative code enforcement, and referred to our home as the final weed in the garden. She even bragged about weaponizing perception and managing the social narrative. Nicole read it and said flatly, "She would have made a great cult leader." By the end of the week, 2 more board members quit. A third sent a letter to the county citing concerns of legal liability. The entire HOA was on the verge of implosion. And then the subpoenas started landing. We didn't even have to sue her. The state picked it up themselves. Turns out false police reports and coordinated neighborhood harassment, especially against a federal agent, tend to grab the attention of the Attorney General's office. The charges were serious. Filing a false police report, felony due to federal implications, criminal trespass with intent to intimidate, attempted civil conspiracy, abuse of HOA authority, obstruction of justice, and the cherry on top, wire fraud for using official HOA funds and resources in fraudulent activity, including those printed notices she'd been slapping on our mailbox. Her mugshot hit the local news before I even had time to check my email. They used the shot where she still had her sunglasses on being led to the car. The headline, "HOA president arrested for harassment and fraud. Victim was federal officer." It went viral. People in town started calling our house the no-go zone, half as a joke, half out of newfound respect. Our mailbox stopped getting anonymous warnings. Instead, we got cookies. Literal cookies. One neighbor, a woman we hadn't even met, left a basket with a note that said, "Thank you for finally standing up to her." We thought we were alone. Nicole didn't say much through all of this. She'd done her job, with precision, patience, and that terrifying calm that only comes from knowing you were right all along. But I saw her exhale one evening, not just physically, but from somewhere deeper. The last court appearance was quick. Karen tried to throw everyone under the bus, claimed it was procedural miscommunication, blamed overzealous volunteers, said she'd been under stress. But the digital trail was too solid, the paper too sharp, the footage too clear. The judge, an older woman with sharp glasses and a voice like steel, looked over the evidence, paused, and simply said, "Your HOA status does not entitle you to ruin people's lives." Karen was sentenced to community service, a sizable fine, and probation. She lost her position. The HOA was placed under external review. Civil suits from other former residents started piling up. By the time she walked out of that courtroom, she was just another person in an ill-fitting blazer pretending not to have been destroyed. And we went home. Our home. The same one she tried to steal through paperwork, threats, and noise. I stood on the porch that night looking out at the now quiet street. Same mailboxes, same grass, same neighbors. But something was different. People waved, not just polite suburban nods, actual waves, real smiles. Nicole came out beside me sipping coffee like always. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. 6 months later, our porch finally felt like a porch, not a lookout post, not a security checkpoint. Just a porch, with 2 chairs, a half-dead fern Nicole refused to give up on, and the quiet that had once made us fall in love with this neighborhood in the first place. It was early fall. The heat had finally backed off. The air was soft, and the sun hung low like it was in no rush to leave. I was sanding a piece of cedar for a custom bench, sweat dripping down my temple when I heard Nicole laugh, a real one this time. No bitterness, no tension, just amusement. She was sitting on the steps holding a letter. "Fan mail?" I asked. "Not exactly," she said. "You'll love this." She handed it to me. It was a printed memo forwarded by one of the former HOA board members, the ones who'd jumped ship after Karen's implosion. Apparently, she'd moved across the state line and applied to another HOA in a town called Coyote Ridge. Applied wasn't even the right word. She'd nominated herself as president before even closing on her new house. "She doesn't stop," I said. "Read the note at the bottom," Nicole said, grinning. There, in ballpoint ink scribbled by whoever forwarded the memo, were 4 perfect words. "Should we warn them?" Nicole took a sip of her tea. "I say we send them the binder." "Which one?" She looked over her shoulder at the garage. "All of them." We both cracked up. The truth was, we hadn't heard from Karen since the sentencing. She'd been banned from HOA participation in our county. Her name was on a few legal databases flagged for misconduct. Last I checked, her mugshot had made it to a subreddit titled "Tyrants in Cardigans." But I wasn't angry anymore. The yard looked good. The air was clean. The dog didn't bark at every sound. Life after war becomes something strange. Quieter. Still laced with echoes, but no longer haunted. We did get one more unexpected visitor a few days later. Steve, our reclusive next-door neighbor, the guy who used to avoid eye contact like it was contagious. He brought over a 6-pack of decent beer and asked if I could help him fix a loose fence post. "Sorry I didn't say much before," he said, awkwardly scratching the back of his neck. "I just figured you'd either give up or get out." "But we didn't," I said. "No," he said. "You won." He paused, then added, "You scared the hell out of her, by the way." Nicole smirked. "Good." We fixed the fence. We opened the beers. The sun dipped behind the trees and our porch lights flicked on automatically, part of the smart system I'd installed during the chaos. But tonight it felt like overkill. Because for the first time in a long time, I didn't need to watch my back, or my lawn, or my mailbox, or my wife standing firm while the world tried to shove her. We were just Home. Finally.